Chatasya hi dhruvam ravyur dhruvam janmamarasya cha dhruvam janmamarasya cha tasmad apariharte arte tasmad apariharya arte natvam shochitum arhasi natvam shochitum arhasi. For to the one that is born, death is certain, and certain is birth for the one that has died. Therefore, for what is unavoidable, you should not grieve. The Lord tells Arjuna a very eternal principle here. In our lives, there's one thing that's certain, one thing we know is certain, it's death. Apart from that, everything to our minds is uncertain. Life is a series of uncertainties. When you are born, where you will be born, the family you get, you don't know about these things. The body you'll get is uncertain. The body has no choice about dying. A person can't choose their body from God, just like a consumer chooses goods from a shop window. You can't do it in that way. It's uncertain which body you get. The relations we have with our parents, we don't know. How long we will live, we don't know. The amount of knowledge, Gnan we will attain, we don't know. The life partner we end up, we don't know. We do actually know, because the soul knows about it, but we don't know. So all of the number of children we have, number of relations we have, we don't know. The amount of wealth we have, the amount of possessions we have, we don't know. All these things in life are uncertain apart from death, which is certain. Because you and I all know that death will come. So there's no choice in this. You already know this up until now, but Shri Krishna says one thing further. For the person that has died, birth is as certain as death for the person that is born. So not only will you die, but birth, rebirth, is just as certain as death. Look at that. Certain is birth for the one that has died. So rebirth is a law of nature. I'll explain this in detail later, and no one can change this. For those who want to attain liberation, it's different. But for those who haven't attained liberation, they will definitely be reborn. When we talk about this, and lots of different questions come out. Do human beings get reborn immediately after death, or does it take time? How is it decided which gender, which religion, which dharma a human being gets in its next birth? How is it decided whether a human being is born as a human being, or whether it's born as a next birth as an animal or a plant? Those who become knowledgeable in the Samkhya scriptures are frequently asked this question, and children frequently tell me that tell Guruji that they want the same parents, they want the same thing in their next births. So they ask Guruji, how is it determined which family we get in the next birth, which possessions we have? How are the circumstances in our next birth determined? If our next birth is predetermined, then how is this? We're going to go through these questions in turn, one by one. First question, do human beings get their next birth immediately, or does it take time? Scriptures say that for a common human being, the next birth takes about between 12 to 13 days after their death. Parapsychologists have written books on this, carried out investigations, research, and it's been proven in books. You can find them on Amazon. The soul is bodiless for 12 to 13 days, then it enters into another body. That's why when someone passes away, we have the funeral ceremony taking place for 13 days. Who's been to a funeral ceremony recently? It normally lasts for 12 to 13 days. There's 12 to 13 days, the soul is just floating around in the air. The things we place for them during a funeral ceremony is because of this, and it's been proved in the parapsychological laboratories. So on that 13th or 14 days afterwards, the soul enters into a new body. And the reason why we make those offerings on the 13th day is because that ties they had to the old birth gets broken, and the soul chooses a new body.
How does Geeta explain population increases?
Okay, very frequently asked question. Okay, human population is increasing, but if you look at all life on this earth, even if you look at a loaf of bread, has millions and billions of bacteria on it. So it all depends on a system of karma, system of vasanas that determine how you get reborn. The population of human beings may be increasing, but those people, human beings, may be getting reborn as other animals. Even if you say that animals are getting more and more extinct, the amount of microbes and bacteria, this endless endless amount of bacteria. Like my hand here will have millions of bacteria. When you breathe, so many bacteria, so many microbes are killed. So there's enough organisms on this earth. If the population of humans increase or decrease, it gets factored into other organisms. So that's very frequently asked question, that one. So that's the spiritual ceremony. However, those are the common, ordinary souls. At the same time, there's also souls that are extraordinary, and they can be extraordinarily good or extraordinarily bad. And these people don't get their body so quickly. They have to wait a little while longer. I already said in the last class that our circumstances on our next birth are determined in this birth. We talked about the clothes. You're always, hopefully when you change clothes, you have your new clothes ready. So they're already changed. So there needs to be a social situation where these extraordinarily good people or extraordinarily bad people have the right circumstances according to their karmas and therefore can have that rebirth. For example, we place obvious person, who's an extraordinarily bad person in history? Come on, most obvious example. Hitler, exactly. He can be placed in an extraordinarily bad category. He killed millions and millions of people, and people like him, fortunately, don't get born every single day. So souls like this have to wait. How long? The scriptures say there's a maximum of 100 years until they get the next birth. Therefore, the minimum time the soul is floating around is 12 days, and the maximum is 100 years. So during this time, the soul determines the circumstances of its next birth. If you look at history, who studied history? If you look at history, historians always say, every kind of historical book, they always say, history keeps repeating itself every 100 years or so. Always happens. There's always a Hitler, always a Mussolini, always a Muhammad Ghazni, always a Aurangzeb, always a Genghis Khan. These people keep coming up again and again. In the same way, extraordinarily good souls do not get rebirth as easily, and they have to wait as well. You've got Mahatma Gandhi, who was a great soul, as well as other great personalities that have been passed away more recently than Gandhi, like Ramlin, Purjadungli Maharaj, Chinmayanandji. These people, if they've attained liberation, then they won't have to come back again. But if they still have remaining karmas, then they have to come back, and they have to wait for extraordinarily a longer amount of period, up to maximum 100 years. They may not have to wait for those 100 years. They may come back in 2 years or 5 years, but it depends. About 100 years is a maximum. Yeah.
Who decides who's a good person or a bad person?
It's decided according to, it's not like a logical system. It's decided according to the soul, according to the past karmas of the soul. You're asking what is good and what is bad. There's different varying levels. Like if you kill someone, let's say you kill someone, that exact same thing will have to happen to you. Is that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you look at that into each and every circumstance, combine karmas along with vasanas, mental impressions you have in your mind, like when you see a TV program when you're a kid, you want to be a footballer, that's a mental impression, or desire, kamna, that leads to rebirth. Every desire has to get fulfilled. So in this birth or the next birth, all these factors come to play, and when those system of karmas is accurate enough for that rebirth to take place, that's when it happens. So each action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's a physics law, isn't it? Okay, the next big question, how is the gender, religion, dharma, and body of our next birth determined? This also depends on one's karmas. When a soul is ready for release from the body, God has given it all the training. In any company, if you look at any company, when a person has reached the top position in the company, they have to know everything about that company, such as finance, sales, purchases, CEOs have to know all of this. He has to have experience in all those different areas to be able to look after the company. In the same way, for an individual soul to be ready for liberation, he has to go through a full range of births. This means it has to have experience of all types of body, be it male, be it female. And it doesn't matter about male or female, exactly the same. In fact, females are regarded as higher in Indian culture. We saw earlier in the first chapter, females are regarded as higher. And so basically, I'll answer these later in a second. So first I want to take the example. Who's heard of the saint Ramakrishna Paramahansa? Who's heard of him? He was a guru of Swami Vivekananda in the 19th century, very famous saint. He lived in Calcutta in the Kali temple. It was said about Ramakrishna that he got the body of the male, but he decided for 6 months to take the mindset of a female. He tried this as an experiment for 6 months, and his whole mentality changed from that of a man to that of a woman. Not only that, but the characteristics in his body change as well to that of a woman. From a man to a woman, his hairs on his body kept falling off. His the size got reduced. He's so much involved in this that the characteristics on his body change as well. The same Ramakrishna experimented with different religions. He had a Hindu body, but he experimented with Islam, in particular the Sufi sect. He experimented with Christianity for 6 months each. He had all these experiences in one birth, and for which people have to go through different births. And therefore, when Guruji says the word dharma, when you say religion, it's a very broad sense. It's not in terms of labels such as Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, because all religions are the same. The goal of the religions are the same, that supreme energy, that supreme soul. Just like when you read the Gita, it doesn't matter what religion you're in, because I said earlier, the Mahabharata, Krishna is referred to in the Mahabharata as Shri Krishna. Whenever Krishna says anything, it says Krishna Uvacha. Krishna says. The Gita, 700 verses of the Gita, it says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. It doesn't say Krishna, it says Bhagavan Uvacha. God says. And we're not talking about Krishna that was brought up by Nanda and Yashoda, Devaki, Vasudeva, talking about the supreme energy, supreme form of God. And that's why it doesn't matter if it's Allah, if it's Almighty God, whatever you want to call it, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, you can apply it to whoever you want because it's Bhagavan and not a specific form of God for the 700 verses in the Gita. So the goals of all religions, dharma, are the same. So one can have different types of bodies, also for different organisms. That the belief that once one gets a human birth and can only get human births after that is against what's read in the scriptures. It may make us feel that great, we're human beings, now we will not get any body of any other organism in the future births. Our next birth is dependent upon evolution and upon whether, as human beings, we've used the powers and strength God has given us in the right way. Guruji always explains this with a very simple example. Imagine if a father has three sons, gives each of them £10,000 of spending money. He says, do whatever you want with it and come back to me after 1 month. After 1 month finishes, the father asks the children what they did with the money. The sons had different answers. The first son said that he spent all that money on clubs, on restaurants, on his friends, parties, hotels, so he used up all that money. Second son said that he kept that money in a savings account, he kept that, didn't touch that money, so he's come back with the same. Third son said that he invested that £10,000 and he's come back with £12,000. Next time, will the father even think twice before giving the first son 10,000 rupees or £10,000? He'll maybe give the second son £10,000, but he'll keep it as that because he won't do it more than that. He'll keep it the same. But the third son, this son has come back with more of an investment for him. He's going to trust him with more money. In the same way, that first son who blew money on parties, who won't think twice, who won't give him a penny again, but this third son who's used his powers, who's used the money in the right way, he gets rewarded. It says, Chantu nam rajana ma dulbatam pulsum na vipraha. God's given us great powers as human beings. If we use these powers properly, then God will tell us that we've used them for good purposes and we can get a human birth if we're not liberated. And not only that, but he gives us greater powers, possessions, wealth and knowledge as human beings in the next birth. We go further about this topic in the 6th chapter. The same question, frequently asked question, was asked by Arjun. If, for example, we only start doing good deeds when we're 60, when we die when we're 80, then those 20 years we had to do good. And our activities are incomplete because we only had 20 years to do them. Don't our karmas go to waste? And Arjun uses a very good example. Just like a cloud turns grey and doesn't send forth rain, don't our activities goes to waste? Shri Krishna gives a very beautiful example here. Arjun, in this world, no good deed ever goes to waste. Even a small good deed can save a person. One of my favorite verses, Guruji wrote this verse from the 6th chapter on his mirror when he got his new house when he was younger. He says, know you for certain, he said already, know you for certain my devotee perishes never. No, he says, no man who does good treads the path of woe. No person who does good treads the path of woe. We'll discuss it further in the 6th chapter. So Shri Krishna says further that the person who accumulates good deeds gets rebirth in a cultured family, or even better, as a progeny of an intellectual yogi. journey towards liberation that he took in his last verse. So if he continues this, then it's his good fortune that he's not reborn as a beast, he's not reborn as an animal. It's pure logic. If you've done good deeds, then you get good karmas. If not, then you get bad karmas. If it's a promotion, then it goes without saying that you can get a demotion. God's rules are not like the rules of the Indian government. Because in the Indian government, when you get promoted, you can never get demoted. God's rules, it's like professional management. It's like the American system. You have to continuously keep proving yourself. In American system, if you prove yourself, you get promoted. If not, you're given 1 month to achieve your target. If you don't, you can get demoted. You constantly have to prove yourself. It's the same as this in life. You have to keep on doing good deeds. That's in Sri Krishna's words, inevitable, and there's no alternative to it. So why grieve about it? Gabirji, we just studied him in detail so far. He's written a very nice doha. Garubar patan se kahe suno pat ek baat, yaha kar yati riti hai ek avat ke jaat. The situation when a leaf is falling from a tree, and the leaf started getting worried, but it's falling. But this tree tells the leaf that's falling, listen to one thing, this is inevitable. It's inevitable. You've grown out of me, you have to fall. In the same way, death is inevitable. Guruji often says that, what if there was no death existent in this world? Imagine if death was not there. People would just keep living and living and living after they're born. The people that would come into the world, new people would get born, there would be a problem for them. Why? Because where would they have to live if nobody dies? The whole world will become an absolute museum, and all you'll see is just old people around everywhere. Don't take me wrong, Guruji and I have great respect for old people. Don't take this in the wrong way. But whenever you go into somebody's house, it'll just be full of people. There'll be no space, no resources in the world, be completely full of old people. When you see an old person, you go into the house, it's an old person sitting in a corner, and someone introduces you. He says, if I haven't forgotten, this is my great-grandfather of 45 generations ago. This is my great-grandfather 44 generations ago. Can you imagine? How can one be able to remember his entire family like that? This death is an inevitability of life. There's a very beautiful incident in Gautama Buddha's life. There's a woman by the name of Kisan Gotni. Who's heard of Kisan Gotni? Okay. Buddha was holding his discourses in his town, and he was just walking around after this. Kisan Gotni was in a town, and a 7-year-old son had died. She was already a widow and already sad, but her 7-year-old son had died. People told her to go and see the Buddha because he's a great personality and he could help her. So she brought her dead son's body in front of the Buddha, and she told him with tears in her eyes, please bring my son back to life. These great personalities always have inventive ways of demonstrating people to them according to their situations. I had an email correspondence with Mira last week. How can you explain Samkhya theory to someone whose family has just died? There was not a time to preach knowledge about to her. It's not a time to preach about Samkhya theory. So if this woman had tears in her eyes, how can you preach metaphysics to her? Very, very tough. He wanted to help her, given her psychology at the time. So what did Buddha do? He said that he will make her son alive. Of course I'll do it, only if you can bring a mustard seed from the house in which no man has died. I'll make your son alive again if you bring me back a mustard seed from a house in which no man has died. Kisan Gotni thought this would be very simple. I'll go around. She went running around trying to look for the mustard seed. She went around the whole town and she asked them for this mustard seed. They all offered these mustard seeds to her, and who wouldn't to a woman whose 7-year-old son has died? But when she asked whether a person has died in the house, then they all say yes. She realized that deaths happen in each and every person's house. Death is inevitable. Just like the sun sets, all life will result in death. There's no reason to grieve about this. What is life? The difference? What is the difference in life? What is the difference when the soul is with a form and without a form? What's the difference between life and death? This is explained in the next chapter. Okay.